Mr. Marc Halpert. Hey, here is our moment worth remembering, right?
What to do with technology, right?
The 20 minutes trying to figure out technology. Hey, it's a beauty and a curse, isn't it?
I used to have a head full of hair before technology started. Now look at me.
I'm so glad we can connect. Did you get your headset figured out?
I'm good. You got the best you got.
Nice.
Okay. An
I've been
invisible
Hey,
headset.
I've been in your shoes many times. It's funny. I have a friend of mine, really good friend of mine that I used to work with and still do to some degree. He used to have one of those portable headsets that you put on. And funny story, because it literally happened every single time we had a team call. We get on a team call the first 15 to 20 seconds. His headset's not working, so he's got to re-log in. So at a certain point, we had this ongoing joke because we would see Zach trying to speak to us, but clearly it's not working because nothing's coming out. And then we're just like, Zach with the headset.
I want you to know this is my first podcast with my brand new camera. So it is
Damn.
the voyage of this camera. Last one last week just went crazy. The picture was getting all pixelated, and I was coming in and going out, and people were getting. One woman said, "I'm getting nauseous. I can't look at you." I said, "Anybody ever said to me, thank you very much."
I suppose it's better to receive that comment from someone you don't know as closely compared to maybe like your wife or anyone else, right?
Well, let's leave my wife out of it. Shall be unnamed. No, but it was a great way for me to meet her. She's saying, "You're making me nauseous." I'll always remember that.
Yeah. I'm glad we're able to do this. I'm glad we're able to connect. So I had reached out to you because you were one of the people who had contributed to Adrian's Moments Worth Remembering book, which there's still a bit of a mystery in trying to figure out where your submission went. I kid you not, out of probably 900, 1,000 submissions to this point, yours is the only one that's somewhere in the ether. But it
That
got to the book and it got to the recipient, which is the most important part. But somehow it escaped Google Sheets. I don't know.
And I did a complete scan of my computer and it's gone. I mean, I looked under Oleg, I looked under Moments, I looked under Adrian, I looked under Miller, I looked under your land. It's not, I don't know where it is. It just, because I always write on Word because
Mm,
it's just a better way to do it. And it, picks up typos and, it makes suggestions. And I like to read it. I let Word read it back to me so I can hear it, because sometimes when you write it and your eyes are going, you miss things when your eyes are going
yes.
so fast. So this read aloud is just this wonderful tool that I use all the time. So everything goes on Word. It's not even on Word.
No.
Go on. I don't know. You and I have a dangerous technology trajectory, shall we say?
We sure do. You know, two for two so far. So we'll
Uh,
see what the third one. We'll see what the third one's yet to come. But
yeah.
I'm curious, just based on your memory or what you can recall, what was it like to be able to actually put words on paper? Because I know you've known Adrian for quite some time,
Oh yeah.
right? Many, many
Oh yeah. Like
years.
23 years. I'm 20 something years.
23 years. That's pretty amazing. What was it like to be able to express your gratitude to her and to answer the initial question of what makes Adrian a gift in your life?
Well, one of the things that was really challenging, which I really enjoyed rising to the challenge, is she's a writer. So she is going to look at what I write. I'd like to think I'm a writer also. And she's going to say, is this good or is it bad? I mean, does she, I know she'll appreciate it, but it's when an artist to another artist, a writer to another writer, we look at each other's works and, oh, I could have said that so much better than he did or she did.
Hmm.
That really sharpened my pencil, shall we say. It really had me choose my words carefully, decide what I wanted to say. I had a limited space. Everybody has a limited attention span these days. I really had to get it out there. Yeah, I've known her 20 something years. I met her at a holiday party so many years ago in New York City. She was standing on the side looking a little just watching the people, let's put it that way. And I walked up and said, "Hi, how are you?" And just it started from there. And now I'm on Adrian's network, and been she's been wonderful to me, and I try to be every bit as wonderful back to her. So what was it like to write it? When you know somebody that long, it's really hard to condense your material down to the real core. And I, in my recollections, if I could only read it, my recollection says that I mentioned probably that I met her a long time ago. I mentioned that it started from there. It mentioned that she said to me, "Mark, why aren't you on Adrian's network several years ago? You belong here." And I took her advice and I did it. And I'm so glad I did. And she's given me wide latitude to be myself, to show what I do to people who don't quite understand what I do because they don't talk about themselves well on LinkedIn. They need somebody to kick them a little, nudge them a little, whatever it is, whatever the verb you want to use. I kick hard because everybody needs to be amazinger, that's my word, than how they come across, including Adrian. And I've taught her a lot of things, and she's taught me a lot of things back. So it's really a combination of time, quality, admiration, honesty, and she's a character anyway. So I love dealing with people on their own level, and it's just so much fun. It's a challenge.
Why do you think people don't choose? Is it a choice? Is it people don't choose to express who they really are or put themselves in positions? Because I've even learned the same thing in creating these books. I feel like I've been able to see a wide range of emotions and reactions depending on who's receiving it, right? Some people, they're instantly in tears. Others are like, I don't even know what to say or what to express because it is challenging, right? When you hear something as deep and meaningful from someone like you, 20 plus years, compared to a mom or your dad or your kids, it puts, I think, people in this position where, what I'm learning at least, they're not ready sometimes to receive that level of gratitude and appreciation. And I think part of that has to do with the fact that many of us, I believe, don't express that anyway throughout our day.
Yeah.
I think those things are kept until the holidays, right? We're coming up on Thanksgiving and Christmas. So I'm sure you and I and so many others will get to hear the words, "Thank you, I love you, you mean so much to me." But then
Aren't we?
outside of that,
Things like
we
that.
gotta
Yes.
wait a year. We gotta wait a year for that to
Wait a
happen again.
lifetime. They wait a lifetime to a deathbed.
Some
That's
people do.
scary. That's really scary. Here's my take on it. And again, as a LinkedIn coach, my job is to get people to get out from under themselves and talk about why they do what they do.
Mm,
Why are they amazing? Or not what I did. I saved $5 million in 1975. Who cares? That doesn't matter. You can't do it again. But what did you do to make that happen? What were the things that you brought to pass? So we are taught not to talk about ourselves. One, because our parents, clergy, teachers said, sit in the back of the room and just slurp it down. Just listen, learn it, regurgitate it on a test score.
mm,
That is not a way to learn to express yourself. We don't get to practice expressing ourselves often enough. To your point, in writing, it's even harder because we know what we want to say in our head. We know what our mouth would like us to try to say. You get the opportunity to go back when you write it to fix it better before it actually goes out as a finished product. Once the words come out of your mouth, it's done, it's over. And we've all been in situations where we wish we hadn't said something, we should have said it better. What's wonderful about writing is it has no intonation. What's bad about writing is it has no intonation. So you have to choose the words you're going to use when you write perfectly. They have to see or hear you smiling as they read you. They have to see or hear you crying as they read you, and everything, every emotion in between. So when I get people to try to step aside themselves and stop belittling themselves and keeping themselves from telling the amazing things that they are, then they sort of feel the catharsis. It feels a little better. I had a client just recently, he said to me, I would have never gotten to this point writing what we wrote together if you hadn't kicked me along, pushed me. You're coach. I'm your high school coach. Go take another run around the track. Think about what you're doing. Exert yourself. Play with it. See where it goes. With Adrian's piece, I wrote a few renditions of it. Again, I wanted it to be really good. It's going to be memorialized in your book. It's going to be in her mind. It's going to sit on her coffee table or hopefully in her office and show lots of people. But if once I say it and it's no good or it's lame, somebody could read it and go, who is this guy? Well, he's supposed to be a public speaker. He's supposed to be a this. He's supposed to be a that. Why can't he do better? That's my whole AI thing. I think AI should be just a guideline and not the finished product, but too many people are just wussing out and they're just being lazy. And I think that that's where we're destined. I don't know, you don't need to go into that. But that's for number 3.
But
we don't get the opportunity to talk from the heart. Business, or really even in personal life. And that's hard. How do you tell your clients you really love them? How do you tell them, thank you? I just sold one of my businesses just recently. I had clients there for 20 years. Thank you. We grew together. I grew with you and you grew with me. I became part of some of their teams so that when they had a project, they said to me, Mark, we need you to come in. Let's sit down and just think about what we can do. And I had to articulate nicely, no, that's not a good idea. Or that's a great idea, but let's go one step further. The push, the coaching, the cajoling to get them to go a little farther, to dare to be better, to dare to try something new, or to dare to say something they've never said before. And it was great fun. Edible.
And I think that's the beautiful moment, is being able to connect like that. It's so funny that it's interesting that you bring this up. I had a conversation with Steve Kent. What are we on Monday? I think it was on Friday. Great guy. Funny story. Him and I never connected, or we connected through other people, but never actually had a one-to-one. So we sat down and we're like, wow, you know what? We've actually never met each other. And it was instant. It was effortless. It was full of everything you could imagine in meeting someone for the first time, as I'm sure you can relate, because I know you've known him for a while. But one of the things that he mentioned was similar point, and that's really focusing on developing quality relationships through which you can express a lot of these things through. Being able to express your love, your gratitude, and not hold anything back. And I was curious, it really got me interested in as far as what ultimately makes that possible. What makes that possible from one connection to the next, right? Is it the experiences you share together? Is there something else? Because business and personal world, in my experience, are slightly different spheres. And I'm wondering, like in business context, because you worked with people from all over the world for however many years by now, what do you think makes that possible, that you're able to have that level of vulnerability and connection with, sometimes within the first phone call?
Yeah.
And then within others, it takes 50 to 100.
I have a sense. I don't know if it's innate. I don't know if it's developed. I'm not sure what it is, but I can sense what it's meant to be. All right. Steve Kent. I love talking to him. Yeah, he has that deep, resonant voice.
He does. I
in
love it.
one of the networking groups I'm in with him, he's the voice of God. So before we even let Steve start talking, we'll say, okay, now let's hear from the voice of God. So he's laughing. Right, Steve, you're laughing as you hear this. You feel when somebody has the spark you miss or you want to learn more about. And I've done something this year, 2023, I never did before. I cherry-picked certain people to create a scheduled group of Zoom calls, various people all over the world. One guy in particular, every week. A few guys every week, a few people every week. We talk. The conversation goes all over the place, but we really get deep. We really get to know each other. Some people every 2 weeks, some people once a month. Scott, once a month. He's on for tomorrow. So, and to get on his schedule is hard. So I sort of say to him, Scott, let's schedule it. Let's not mess with the schedule. And so we do it, and we go and we talk about, he and I talk about things we're going to do next year. He and I talk about perceptions we have of what's going on in the world, in the businesses that we're in, because he does generically what I do. If you take all the details out, he's coaching.
Sure.
We actually overlap in a million ways, yourself included, so many different ways. I had lunch with him in New York 2 weeks ago, I think. I don't see him often because I don't get into New York real often. But man, we just connected immediately. We plotted for the next year. We have all these things we're going to do together. We have more conversations to have. It just keeps rolling, but it's only the intonation of your voice when you're Zooming or you're in front of somebody. And they have to hear the intonation of your voice when you're emailing or you're writing the piece that you're normally writing. You get that chance. If they know you well enough, they know what you're saying and how you're saying it, what you mean between the lines. It's important that you just can't meet somebody and all of a sudden they understand you. There has to be an investment on both sides. Not every investment pays off. There's no ROI to friendship. I've had friends for 35, 40 years that I can jump into the relationship, pick it up. I did this yesterday. I wanted to introduce somebody to a friend of mine. I've known her for 40 years in business, and I jumped in. I made the connection. She knew the connection I was going to make was valuable based upon my reputation or my opinion. She has her opinion of me, and I jumped out. And we'll talk again, hopefully not in another 40 years because it won't be that much time, but it gets you back. You can pick up where you left off. Those are the relationships that are so cool. There's
I also
so
I also really like your point about what you just mentioned, and that's taking the time to really think through what you're writing, putting it down. In your case, I think you said it took a couple of different tries to even put together Adrian's thing. I look at those things as opportunities, right? These are all opportunities. So me choosing to reach out to you and say, hey, Mark, you're part of Adrian's network. I'm putting this together for her. All I've ever looked at this is just an invitation for people to be a part of. This is not a hard deadline. Your life's going to end if you don't choose to be a part of it. This is me inviting you to be a part of something, just like anyone else invites you to be a guest on their podcast, to contribute to their book, to whatever it is. And what I found really interesting, and this is not really a judgment, but more so an observation, is how I believe it's very few people who look at those things as what it is: an opportunity to connect on a deeper level, an opportunity to express who I am, an opportunity to possibly get in front of a future client, future business, future whatever it might be. And I think it's only through that recognition I've been able to identify within my own life the time and the effort that I'm going to put into this. I may never know the opportunities it can create from there.
right.
Now, with something like this, deep and personal, you literally have no idea, because this is something that could live with that person for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, I want to be part of that. I want her to know that I volunteered to give her that kindness back that she gave me. It's a trade. It's not an even trade. You can never have an even trade of kindnesses.
Sure.
You can never have an even trade of beautiful words. You always wish you had said something that you never said. But it's my chance to let her know, or let anybody know, I appreciate them. And I have met not only after the pandemic, but before the pandemic, these glorious people. But the pandemic silver lining is to have this recurring, scheduled set of no agenda conversations with people that go so deep. People teach me so much, and I don't know if I teach them as much as I get back, but that's part of the inequality of all of it. But I try to give back. This guy that I speak to once a week in Mexico, Danielle, he introduced me to a book by Rick Rubin, the music producer. He discovered hip hop and brought it to the mainstream. And his book is about the art of creativity. It's just a glorious book. And I read it cover to cover in one sitting. Not that it was a short book, it was so compelling. And thank you, Danielle, for opening my horizons to that, all in one mention and a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
I would have never, I took 75 pictures of excerpts of that book. I wanted to save it and bank it and know that I could use it at some point in some of my writing and some of my working and some of my slides and my project and my presentations. It was great stuff. If he hadn't told me about it, I would have never known. So I always appreciate that people are giving me something without any expectation of return. It's that pay it forward thing, and I give them freely back without any expectation of return. But you're right. You don't know what you're going to get back. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you get the gold rush, and sometimes you get nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all an investment in your future. All in somebody else you meet on the street you haven't seen in 30 years. I'm sorry, you probably don't know that you can say that. Wow. I mean, where have you been? What have you done for all those years? Or you know somebody I know in common. Everybody, all the good people in the world, all know each other at the end of the day.
Oh, yeah.
Always believe that. So you have to extend the kindness and trade the kindness when it's due.
Mm-hmm.
How does it come back to you?
Mm-hmm.
It makes me feel good. If they don't feel good from it, I did my piece. Not because it's about me feeling good. It's about me releasing myself to express it. Men are taught not to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Business people are taught not to do this. Younger people are definitely taught not to do this. They have to be self-confident enough to do it, no matter what demographic you are. So I've always wrestled with this. My big corporate days were very tough for me. Too much, not enough emotion, too much black and white. I thrive in the gray area. I like the definitions and the differences amongst people and of cultures and countries. And I mean, I gave a presentation on LinkedIn to a group of indigenous South Africans to learn how to use LinkedIn. And I could see them on their flip phones watching my presentation. Now, let's talk about shades of meaning and nuance just by being able to do that today, because they were budding entrepreneurs. I would have never done that if my friend in South Africa hadn't invited me to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so many rich, wonderful experiences we get to have, and we have to take advantage of what we can to have an impact on other people.
Mm. Did you always have the mindset of gratitude and appreciation, or what clicked in your life that said, "Hey, this is an important aspect of life"?
23 years ago, I became an entrepreneur. I couldn't blame anybody for anything, so I had to do it all right. Okay, can't blame the accounting department because I am the accounting department. Can't blame the marketing department. Here it is, you know. So I had to do it all right. So I decided that I needed to be gracious in everything I do because it reflects back on me and my potential to be referred or to be awarded business or to even get the opportunity to bid on business. I like to think I give the extra mile. Now, when I sold my business, like I told you, I got a lot of nice notes back, not because I wanted to get nice notes back, but it's really interesting to see what each individual remembered about the multiple year relationship we had.
Mm-hmm.
And that tells me I had an impact. That tells me that I gave them more value than the monetary value I earned from their account. That's gratitude. I'd like to be more. I have more gratitude. As one guy I know in particular who is an expert in gratitude. That's his business, how to express gratitude, which I think is fantastic. I came across him years and years ago. He's just back in my radar again for a group we're part of. And I learned so much from him. And I know that I could go do more. So if you think you're hearing gratitude from me, you would just hear this guy gush gratitude. It's really quite fascinating. I like to give people what I would like to expect from them.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a pretty 50-50 proposition.
Mm-hmm.
I don't always get 50. I don't always get 49. I might get 52 to their 48. But I can pretty well figure out who's appreciating what I'm doing and who's in it just for, until they find somebody else to substitute for me. But in
Hmm.
everything I do as a consultant, I get deep with people in the LinkedIn side. Oh
You
man,
sure do.
we end up being really good business friends as a result of this because they bared their soul to me. I
Hmm.
had one woman break down in tears and tell me stuff about why she couldn't express herself, which I won't even repeat because I shouldn't, but
Hmm.
it was stunning. It was frightening. And I don't do well with crying, as a client. Makes it everybody think, what has he said to her? That's terrible. You know, but they felt comfortable enough to tell me. So I felt the gratitude that they felt that comfort level with me to tell me.
Mm.
Now let's build on it. Let's see where we can go with it. I hear you talk about this theme. I hear you talk about that theme. Do you ever pull the two themes together and tie them in a knot? And they look at me and go, no, that's my life you're talking about. I never thought to do that. So, it becomes really interesting stuff.
Hmm.
And I love it. I love what I do. I am so happy as a coach to people to get them to be amazinger than they already are.
Mm. For anyone that's going to be listening to this outside of Steve and Adrian and many others that you and I share that know exactly where to find you and where you're at, where can people find you and what do you have going on now that you have sold your business? What's next?
Well, I've always run three businesses at a time. I sold two of them together. The LinkedIn coaching is what's next. It is the most gratifying, wonderful experience I've ever had.
You're doing
The
three just because one is not enough of challenges?
Oh, it's a long story. Really, really, really quickly, I started my business 2 days before 9/11. Oh
Okay.
God. Oh my. Oh yeah. So corporate America, which I thought I was going to slay because I came out of corporate America as in my business, didn't happen. So I went to meet somebody, and the only person who would give me time to meet with her, she said to me, "Look, Mark, I can't help you. I've got nothing here, but I got an idea for you. Why don't you go into?" And she named the industry, nonprofits. And that's
Mm,
a mindset I like a lot. Nonprofit people are do-gooders. They get it. They're a very human aspect of business, the most human
mm,
aspect of business you could have. So I started that same business, but I did a twist and created a brand just for nonprofits as opposed to the for-profit. So I ran both those brands together and I sold those. In 07, 08, when I was trying to build more business and we were in a pretty much a bad economic downfall, I decided that this thing called LinkedIn made a lot of sense because people were disappearing and they were going all over the place. Everybody was leaving corporate. The bubble had burst and everybody was zooming around. And all my business cards on my Rolodexes were garbage. There was no information there except the name that was constant throughout all this
mm.
calamity. So I had heard about LinkedIn. I had joined LinkedIn back in 2004, like 209,000th person to join LinkedIn. And by the way, now there are a billion people on LinkedIn, which is an
That's wild.
astounding number. And I decided to use LinkedIn as the way to contact people that I couldn't find anymore because it kept up with them. It showed where they were, where they had gone, and decided that I was taking too many courses and learning too little. And you know what? I knew more than the teachers at one point. I decided, go teach it. Go teach your style of LinkedIn, which is the gratitude, the
Hmm.
appreciation, the cajoling, the amazingerness, all that sort of thing. I didn't hear a lot of people do that. Most of them are saying, put your hand on the mouse and click here. Well, that's LinkedIn for dummies. I don't deal with dummies. That's terrible. So that's why I have three businesses. And that's why I decided that the one that really makes the most sense for me for the last days of my career, because I'm heading towards the end of my career at my age, I love it. I can do it anytime I want with anybody I want to. And baby
Mm,
boomers like me are told not to talk about themselves. I mean, we really learned not to talk about ourselves in the old days. And some of them really want to go back to work because they're bored playing golf. It's just fascinating to see what people want to do. And they have to refashion themselves,
hmm.
redefine themselves. I redefined myself 5 times. I think I know a little bit about redefining myself, different industries, different areas. So I can bring to the market, shall we say, to people who are serious enough to take advantage of what I'm trying to teach them and give them yet one more life skill, and that is self-describe,
Mm.
self-market, brand market yourself like you're a box of cereal on the cereal aisle. All the cereals taste the same. End of the day, it's what's on the outside that makes people want to pick the box up off the shelf and want to read that box. And that's what I'm trying to do. Box everybody, package everybody in a way that you appear to be a little bit better than the average, a little bit better than the inside that everybody expects. What do you exude that makes you unique? And that's hard for people. They can't do it. They're afraid.
Mark, is there a website for this?
Oh, well, yes. Connect, the number 2, collaborate.com. Name of the company is Connect to Collaborate. It's what I do. The collaboration side is fascinating. Collaboration side intends to take that connectivity that you've created in your profile, but to expend it into the conversation that we're having around the global water cooler that is LinkedIn, and that is posts and articles and comments and conversation, not emojis, not smiley faces, not thumbs up that tell somebody after they said, Oleg said I did this, and I give him a thumbs up. He doesn't know what I'm talking about. I mean, yeah, I like it, but why do you like it? Tell me in human words why I'm pushing you to just keep going. I'm all about the word. I'm all about the right word at the right time. Just before we got on this, I was telling him he's never really posted. And he posted something so funny and about himself and a mistake he made and what he learned from it. It's all that stuff that we all do the same time. We like to read how others have persevered. It's the oldest story in the world. The protagonist falls, the protagonist picks up him or herself, the protagonist moves on. Any movie, any novel, anything. We all do it every day, especially as entrepreneurs. You've made mistakes. I've made mistakes. I made a lot more than you did, probably because I've had more time to make them. And you know what? I keep learning from them. And the world changes, and I'm learning to change with it. Like why we were 23 minutes late. Oh, I didn't think about that, So we laugh about it, but it goes into our arsenal of tricks and all the skills we have from everything we've done in our experience. Your past makes you who you are today, and your present makes your future. And all the skills you have in your back pocket, you play them on the card table of life, and then you put the card back in your pocket just a little bit thicker, a little bit better than it was before you last pulled it out. And this is just what we do. And we do it now more frequently than we used to do it because life is faster and it's a little bit more frenetic than it ever was. But it's a skill you got to do. You got to be in the moment. You have to be ready to admit you messed up, and you will never mess up like that again. And own it. Own it. It's yours. If you own it, if your ego lets you own it, not if in the old corporate days, it's their problem. It's their fault. Like I was saying before, they screwed it up. I worked too hard. I should have gotten that bonus for it. Buck stops here. It's got to stop here. And so you represent the right people. You represent yourself to the right people. They appreciate you, and off you go.